All right. Hi, everybody. Mike here. And today is the final um, entry in my playlist that I'm calling Workshop in Progress. And this is has been 3 1 hour long sessions that I've done so far. Today will be the 4th. And I am working on building my presentation for the Macstock conference this year. So Macstock is a Mac-based tech conference in Crystal Lake, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. I'm flying out tomorrow, like 18 hours from now, and I'm presenting on Sunday. I'm presenting a 90-minute workshop that I'm calling digital mise en place. So if you're not familiar with that term, that is a cooking term that really talks about how you should, before you start cooking, you should cut up all the onions and the carrots and measure out all your ingredients and just get everything in order, get stuff together before you start cooking. It's a lot easier to take care of all that stuff at the beginning and then be ready to do the cooking than it is to, in the middle of having something in the pan, realize, oh, I need to go cut up and prep something else, and then it's just a lot more stressful that way. So I'm taking that cooking concept and applying it to digital infrastructure, to how it's useful to apply this concept to your creative projects, your digital creative content. So I use this in creating content for work when I'm creating my day job as a technical trainer, where I create job aids and training stuff. I use it personally for my YouTube channel and videos and blog posts. And I also use it with my family, like when we're going to go on a trip somewhere. So this concept has been something that I've kind of organically developed over the past 10 or 15 years, and I'm presenting about it on Sunday. So this series that I've been doing has been all about me going through the process to prepare for that. And it's been unscripted, very, very loosely planned. This is just me sitting here and doing stuff as I get ready for this preparation for this presentation. And today is the final day. It has to be the final day because I'm flying out tomorrow morning, and I am working on the actual slides. I've spent everything up until now planning out the presentation, creating the stuff I'm going to give away, and creating a page on my website to serve kind of like as a handout. And the last video I did 2 days ago was me going through and reviewing everything, and then we'll start working on the presentation itself. So here we are. This is the thumbnail that I'm using for this video series, and I put it up here too. I'll probably come up with something better later, but this is a full page. If you look over here to the scroll bar, this is basically a web page version of my presentation. I'm obviously going to be presenting and talking to people, and there'll be a dynamic, and I'll make the visuals that will go along with this. But what I wanted to have here, because this is a workshop, and from my experience in the classroom, it's always helpful to have a organized resource that your learners can connect back to. As I don't know how many people will be in this presentation. I don't know if it'll be one-on-one and I could just coach somebody the whole time and it won't be that big of a deal, or if we're going to have 50 people in the room who will all be working at different paces. I wanted to have this resource so that if people didn't hear me, or if they were distracted or having trouble, they could go through this. I'm not going to read the whole page to you, but I have broken down the sections with numbers to make it easy for people to understand where they are. If I tell somebody to scroll up to section 1 or something like that, I find it easier if they know, like, oh, I'm at section 3, so I need to scroll up, right? Or if I'm telling somebody to scroll down, just helpful landmarks. But I went through and found all the links for the 3 different tools we're going to use. They all have free trials that people can download and try out. And then these 2 tools are mind mapping tools that we're going to use as well. But all of this stuff has free options and free trials. But this is what I want people to do. I'm going to put on my presentation, I'm going to have a QR code and tell people, access this while they're waiting, while we're gathering in the room and getting people ready for the presentation. Like, go ahead and get prepared. Pull out your computer and download this stuff. And it's just a helpful way to get people in the room and get people started on something so that we have some momentum. And then I'm going to be guiding people through this, but I'm going to have them pick their project that they want to work on today. I do have a backup option built in where people will use the project of attending next year's Macstock as their project to work on. I always find that helpful to have a backup if I'm asking people to brainstorm. If I'm planning on somebody not being able to come up with an idea, I need to have something in place for them to still participate and not derail everything. And then we're going to work on them creating a task paper template of the project that they're going to work on. I have links in here so they can install the action they need to install in drafts as well as documentation. But then I've given them this easy to copy template that they can work as well. One of the big things I want to be able to do with this website is just have all the resources they need in one spot so we don't have to struggle or worry about finding stuff or passing things out or emailing things or anything like that. It's all just right here. And then the next thing they'll work on is creating their map of the folders that they want to create. So that's that other part of the digital mise en place that I can run, and it will create folders for you on your computer with markdown files built in there as well. And here's the content for the markdown files. So this is the sample that I'm giving to people, and it's very thoroughly documented to make it easy for people to understand how they could adjust things. And it's also really helpful for them when they give it to an LLM so that they can customize it as they like. So that's all right here. Again, easily copyable, and it's a lot, so I'm going to keep scrolling. And then we're going to finally get down to doing something like this. So we're going to download the Keyboard Maestro macro that I've created for them, and they're going to adapt that to their needs, and then we're going to test it. And then what I've made here is, the goodbye section. So I'm sharing with them the links page that I have on my site that links to all my social profiles. Here is a feedback form that I've asked for their feedback for the presentation, and then a contact form if they want to reach out to me separately. And then that's it. So this page is the page I started building during the presentation, during the live stream last time. I finished it up on my laptop, sitting downstairs, not here in my office with my live stream set up. So I didn't film that part of creating all this stuff, but I feel really confident with this. And this is the third thing that I did after I created all the automations and I created the plan itself. So this is the original mind map that I created in the first episode, and over the course of developing all this stuff, I made edits and tweaks, and even during the session, or during building that page yesterday, 2 days ago, I realized I want, as I'm writing it all out, and writing the directions and thinking about everything, even then, I tweaked the plan again. So I adjusted the macro assembly. I initially had it up after the intro as like a simple short thing that people could do and have that on their computer, and then we would jump into it. When I first wrote it out, I was like, all right, that makes sense. Let's get the macro started. But then as I'm realizing the complexity that this, like creating this task stuff might be for some people, and definitely the folders as well, I decided to move the Keyboard Maestro macro part, because it is easy, to be later. It could have been a quick win to get people to download a program and install a macro, and then they would have some success and they'd see something on their computer. But I decided there's no need to introduce it before these two items. So that's how we got here. So now I need to make a visual to go with this. And my entire time as a teacher, I used Google Slides for my presentations. And since I've been a technical trainer, I've been remote, and I've actually not made any presentations that I've given. I've made a couple to give to other people in PowerPoint that they used, but all of my presentations have been in Ecamm, the same software I'm using right now, and I've been making all of my slides in InDesign, Adobe InDesign, and then importing them into here as images, and been using Ecamm Live as my presentation tool. So I'll be in person for this conference, so I can't really do that. And since it's a Mac conference, I decided to try out Keynote. I used Keynote when I was student teaching. I was in college, and I got my first Mac in like 2008, like the fall of 2008. And that's when I was doing my student teaching, was 2008, 2009, fall of 2008, spring of 2009. So I was using Keynote back then, and I haven't touched it since. So I downloaded it and opened it, and here I am using Keynote. I'm going to try it out. And I will say I am tempted. I always did like the presentation of what comes out of the box with Keynote. It is a very pretty, they have very pretty templates, I think. But some do, some of them aren't. But especially these, like I'm really intrigued by this dynamic section where I might be able to mess around with, like, because I don't know if that's coming through on the stream, but if you click on one of these, you can see like they have these dynamic backgrounds that change color, or this has some adjustments. So I'm tempted to mess around with something like that, but as you can see, I clicked on one before to see what it looks like, but I don't want to do that. It's not my starting point for a presentation. I like to decide what goes where, and I like to be in control of it all. So I'm not going to use any template other than just white. So basic blank template. I guess there's a basic white too. I don't know what the difference is between those two. I'll go basic white, I guess. And I will jump into using this. All right. So I remember from my time 15 years ago, so it's similar. All right, so you get similar to PowerPoint and the other presentation stuff. You have your slides over here on the left, it looks like, which I currently have none. And again, I like starting my presentations 100% blank, so I'm going to delete that. And then on the right, you have the kind of inspector area. So that's where you got your format. Okay, information about the document, presentation type. I guess we'll go normal and 16:9. Not doing any of those slideshow settings. Don't need to change the theme. Audio? I'm not recording audio. So there's the animations, and this is the formatting. So I can pick slide layouts. I will be doing a lot of this style, like photo style. Okay. And then up here we have our different options for importing media, adding shapes, text. Okay. Object list, rulers. Okay. So here we go. Like I said a second ago, I am a big visual presenter person. My philosophy that I taught my students when they were in 10th grade, I had the fortunate situation that I would teach students in 10th grade, and that same group of students would come back to me in 12th grade. I taught like in this quasi-magnet program type thing. And so I had two rules. In 10th grade, I had a rule that students, when they made presentations, it was called the 6x6 rule. I didn't make it up, but it's 6 words per line of text and 6 lines of text per slide. So a theoretical maximum of 36 words per slide. And that was there to kind of help these 10th grade high school students get away from copying and pasting like a paragraph from Wikipedia into their slides, right? Let's at least start processing it down into bullet points. And they had a year of practice with that. And then when they came around to their senior year, those same students came back to me and theoretically more mature, more intelligent, more practiced, but they had that experience before. And then the senior year, the rule was the 3-second rule. And that was, I should be able to understand your slide in 3 seconds or less. I really want the slide to be something that supports a physical presence, a physical performance. It's not there to be the presentation. It's an aid, and the person is giving the presentation. That's the idea. And that's not just something I made up to make it harder for students. That's something I believe in. That's something that I'm going to do here. So this first slide is going to be a standalone. It's going to be up on the screen as people are entering. So I see it as different than a part of my presentation. I see it as like a landmark to let people know when they come into the room that they're in the right spot. So I'm going to do that. So this slide is going to be based around that. Like I said before, I'm going to have a QR code and like probably the name of the presentation to make sure they know when they're in the right spot and all that. So let me start by changing this slide color. So I have a no fill. Where do I pick my colors? I don't want a gradient fill. There we go. Okay, so you have to pick into the color to get a color code. So I have a couple colors that I have standard for my personal brand, the MikeBurke.com. So I'm going to put those in here. Where is it? I always find it annoying to find the hex code. There it is. So this is an Apple color picker. You got to go everywhere to find this. And then TMB. So I'm going to go with this light blue, which is similar to that color. But that's the light blue that I'm going to have on the slide as people come in as my background. And we're going to be using these resources as well during the presentation. So building the presentation, I love Unsplash. And I do have an Adobe Creative Cloud license. So I'm going to mess around with, if need be, I'm going to mess around with their image generation tool. But I need to make a QR code for the presentation. So the link to the page people need to access is themikeburke.com/Macstock. And then I believe I found this. No, it's not that one. All right, 1 second. Let me go. I got to go check in Obsidian because I saved a link that somebody shared on Mastodon a little while ago, which is a QR code generator that is just just a QR code generator. It doesn't have all the other stuff that comes with most of those QR code generators, like the one I just checked out. So it's justaqrcode.com. So I'm going to put in my code, and I'm going to put in the foreground color. Can I make it transparent? Let's see. So that's white. Well, I guess I don't have to make it transparent. I can just make it... It's not working. There we go. So I can make it the same color as my slide. And we'll get a big version, and then we'll download it. Okay. So back over to Keynote. Sorry, popping into a couple other folders here that I didn't clean up before this. So I'm switching out of that screen share for a second. So there's the QR code to the page. So just have that on the slide for now. The other thing that I want to get, probably for this title slide, is get the actual... I don't remember the actual name of my presentation that I submitted, so let me look it up real quick on the site. I don't have it on my post, so... Gotta go to the Macstock conference real quick. The schedule. I am on Sunday. Scroll down. There we go. Digital mise en place, building an integrated system for project organization and automation. Okay. So let's drop some text in here. So that's a really fun Keyboard Maestro macro that I have, by the way. It types out what's on my clipboard. So I do that all the time when I'm worried about like getting formatting wrong, like copying from a header on a web page. I don't want to paste it in here because then it's going to be a heading and it's going to be all weird. So I have a Keyboard Maestro macro where I just type semicolon and then the word type, and it replaces, or it types out whatever's on my clipboard. So that's how that just happened, if you were wondering. So let's... So let's make that... Figure out how the options are over here. I want the text to be white, so there we go. And I like... I'm not even sure how to say this font. It's my favorite font, but it is... Oh, I should switch that to title. Whoa. Avenir, maybe? That's way too big. And let's switch that to white, left aligned. That's a lot of text. I might drop my subheading there. Yeah, I'm going to drop the subheading. And black is a little bit of a heavier font. And yeah, we'll add add that up here. Do we have alignment? Oof. I'm used to having alignment in InDesign and all that stuff. Let's see, arrange. Can I align left? There we go. Okay, well that's good enough. Okay, so another piece of text. Come on, there we go. Do like a welcome. Gotta update my font style here. So let's get a welcome up there, and then we'll figure out a spot for that in a second, and then please visit and review the take that out for now. Please visit and review the welcome section of this page. Near white. Heavy. Where do we get line spacing and stuff? Yeah, let's there's spacing. I'm trying to be like a little bit more, trying to make sure this is a friendly and welcoming page. So digital mise en place, we got the title up there, heavyweight, so people understand they're in the right spot. I'll probably be greeting people by the door, just teacher stuff, so I'll probably be there, but still make sure they know they're in the right spot. Let's add, let's see, what do we have, some arrows in here maybe? Okay, other options. So do I get to add a, okay, I can give that an arrow. I don't want two of them though. There we go. Wrong side. None. Let's make this a ton bigger. There you go. Oh. Don't want you to just do that. All right, and then we'll replace that with white as well. Maybe something like that. Okay. Digital mise en place. Bring that welcome back, maybe. This is annoying. I'm learning. Got to relearn all my little like double clicks and all that stuff to figure out how things work out. What if we just add it in here? welcome. I don't like having welcome right next to each other 2 times, but maybe a thanks for coming. Is that better? Thanks for coming. Something like that. Okay. All right, so very left-hand heavy page. I got space over here to do something. Don't know if I want to write. Don't want to put my face on there. I've seen my face enough. I'm going to sit here and spend 45 minutes on this arrow. I'm going to stop that. So we'll come up with something to put on that slide, but we got to welcome. We'll come back to this. We don't have to build every slide perfect before we move on. So so my presentation, if we come back up here, so that's a good idea. So my past self was kind to me, and I thought about having maybe the different app icons of the things we'll be using up on the screen. So that might be something I put over here. But let's move on and come back to that for right now. So the intro is going to be 10 minutes. And this is where I'm going to introduce the idea of digital mise en place. So, and again, it's because it is a cooking term, and I think people will connect with even if they don't know this like French phrase for cooking preparation. I think if I give visuals and we talk about like an organized kitchen, I think that's something that people can connect with, because I think that's a very a more universal experience, as people will hear and understand the potentially stressful parts of cooking. So that'll be, I think that's good for the next slide. So how do I add slide? And we're going to add, I guess technically I can add a photo slide, but I'm just going to go with a blank slide. All right, so I'm going to welcome people, and again, the slide should support me. It shouldn't be anything more than a support. So let me come to Unsplash and let me look up, let's just look at cooking first. Don't need the QR code anymore. Okay, so if you don't know Unsplash, it used to be awesome. I think it's kind of gone downhill a little bit since they monetized it, as everything does. But so Unsplash, unless you get one of these plus ones, again, which is one of the money ones now, Unsplash is, their whole thing is totally free, just giving away really high quality pictures, and they have a certain aesthetic for sure. As you can see, that one's not bad. Maybe this one. But it's not your standard stock photo. They're much more of a, I don't know. I just like the vibe. So scrolling through here real quick. I want to find a picture, a large, high quality, like vivid picture of an organized kitchen. I don't want it to be too distracting with too much stuff in it, but I want it to definitely feel like, I want it to exude like organization. And it should be landscape. So that's something, if I remember right. Let's see, scroll to the top. Let's go to the filters here. Landscape orientation. Let's just filter for free. Don't want to buy anything for this. And this is just a cooking term. So this is the picture I actually used for a blog post I did that served as like source material for this. So I'm not opposed to coming back to that. Let's see. So a lot of this is not quite what I'm looking for. So I might as well download a fresh copy of, well, that one's kind of organized, but that's that like flat lay style is not, doesn't look functional. So let me go ahead and download this. So okay. Not sure what that's all about. Reload that page. So that was the free version, a free photo. Guess I was trying to load this. And so, 4,000, almost 5,000 by 3,000. So very, very high quality. It's going to fill my 16 by 9 space on this slide very easily. So we can definitely use that. That'll be a starting point. We'll see if we want to do anything more with that. So let me pull that in real quick. Where are we? How do we zoom out in Keynote? Can you... There we go, zoom. All right, so see, holding shift and dragging on this corner. Yep, that works. It drag. I think used to be a thing. Let me see if it's still a thing. Something else we can do is duplicate this, because this is the very beginning of the presentation, right? So I didn't say this before in this video, but with any live learning experience, I always find it to be essential to have a win and like set the tone at the beginning, and to stick the landing. Like the beginning and end of the presentation are super important. I find it really frustrating when a presentation just kind of just dissolves at the end, where it's just like you get to that final slide, that like black slide, and everybody's like, and that's it. Like that's like, I don't want a presentation to just fizzle out like that. It should be really clear, like a fireworks show, like that was the grand finale. The presentation is over. Like, not necessarily fireworks, but it should be a clear end. Like the story should be wrapped up and should make sense, right? And I believe the beginning of the presentation is really helpful too, to set the tone, to make sure people are maybe not paying attention isn't the right word, but to make sure that people understand what they're in for. So I don't want to be too loud and obnoxious with anything, but with what I'm going to be saying during this time, I'm imagining I'm going to be probably telling a story about growing up cooking with my mom. So she was not a classically trained chef or anything like that, but she was a very good cook, taught me how to cook, taught high school foods classes. They used to be called home ec. I don't know what they're called now, but like culinary arts classes. And so I grew up like with her and with doing that type of stuff. So I'll be telling that story, and one of the things that you can do to transition from slides is magic move. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so with this second slide, if we like zoom in a little bit, and time this up a little bit, then what this can do is kind of you'll like slowly fade in or push in to the picture. So I could be like telling this story, and then like over these 10 seconds, it will, like the photo will be shifting in a little bit, just like a subtle little extra touch, I guess, to the present. It won't snap back. That's just because I hit the preview button. But just like a little subtle part to the story where I can be talking about it, and it might invoke like a little extra elegance to the presentation. So that's how I'll start the presentation, with talking about like learning about this from cooking with my mom, and how I learned the core concept of digital mise en place, and how I apply that to my life today in the course of digitally. But I think this is a helpful start. So looking back at the presentation, oh, wait a second. I realized I wasn't showing my my screen. So what I did was, again, on this slide, I added a magic move animation as a transition between slides. And on this second slide, I had the same picture, but I zoomed it in a little bit. So it looks like this when you preview it, and I have it for 10 seconds. So I'll probably start talking, and then with my presentation remote, I'll transition to the next slide, and that transition is actually going to be this like 10-second subtle push into the slide. So I feel like that might be, a helpful point of emphasis. I could reverse it and like zoom out, but I feel like zooming in is probably the better choice. Okay, so I need to transition that into files and folders. So I don't think if I search, well, maybe I can find like physical folders, folders on Unsplash. Okay, well, several of these don't have the same sensation I'm looking for. This one's not bad, like all color coordinated like this. And I could draw the parallel if I had physical stuff. I could talk about my time as a classroom teacher and how I liked having my classroom organized. Okay, let me go ahead and I'll grab a free copy of that. Yeah, it's going to be all physical stuff. Let's see if we can do computer folders. No. Floppy disks, okay. All right, so maybe this is where we can go to Adobe Firefly. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for an image. Everything else is an image. So let me try to keep an image file here. I don't really have a lot of experience with Adobe Firefly, but I wanted to use it. I want to experiment with it here on this presentation. So let's see. A 16 by 9 image of a 16 by 9 image of organized computer files and folders. I don't know if this is how this is going to work. Let's generate. Text to image, 1 credit. Okay. Okay. Well, 16 by 9. Well, it's on auto. Visual intensity. I don't know what that's going to be. Well, let's just see what this does first. All right. Well, I guess I'll keep scrolling over here to see if while that's generating effects. This is interesting how you can pick so many different things. Lighting, camera angle. Shot from above, shallow depth of field. That's interesting. Oh, something went wrong. All right, well. So I guess I don't need that. An image of, maybe we can flower this language up a little bit. Evoking a sense of masterful organization and preparation. I don't know. Okay. None of those are computer files. That's frustrating that it thinks that's. I don't like that hanging out. I would want the opposite of that. All right, let's say digital. Evokes. Okay. Maybe I need to take the folders part out. All right. So I guess I'm doing something wrong. Able to say an organized computer. Well, I don't know. Let me just come to look here for yeah, I'll probably just stick with Unsplash. I'll find something close enough. I have a feeling that image will resonate. The mechanical keyboard and an iPad and a computer, and it's a Mac, so I think that'll resonate. A little stylus there. Yeah, that'll work. That'll do. Way better than what I got from you, Adobe Firefly. I'll keep that tab open just in case there's something else we need, but all right. Let's come back into here. Add a slide. So here is our bunch of organized like little notebook type stuff on shelves, color coded. That definitely invokes like a physical sense of clarity. And then another one with our organized desk. Okay. All right, so again, I'll put some stuff up here on the side, but then we're gonna say digital mise en place, and I'll say who's familiar with the term mise en place, and or I say I learned from my mom. We would grow up cooking, blah blah blah. Push into that as I'm telling that story, and then say how I translated that knowledge to my physical classroom. I'd really like to keep things organized. I found it to be really helpful for managing my classroom with lots of different things going on, but that also extended to my digital life, and that's what we're going to share with you today. We're going to help you prep all that stuff, blah, 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 and then and then we get to start thinking about some ideas. All right. So that was 4 slides, technically 4 slides plus after the welcome. But that's probably only 90 seconds of me talking. A start. That's how I'm going to hook people. That's how we're going to get the presentation started. All right. So now, what I said in my, let me go to, where am I at? Back to MindNode. All right. So in MindNode, what I said we would be doing next is then picking a task. So this is where I want to try to get people thinking about what connects with them. What do they have? What's something that they can pull on that is going to be what they work on during this session? So I think I'm going to go with another blank slide. Let's format this slide with background, a color fill. Pick that. There we go. All right. I phrased this on here. What did I say on my page? So this is the language I used on the site. So again, not usually a fan of a slide like this. But this is one of those circumstances, I think, where it's might be helpful to know when to break a rule. Because I'm imagining I'm going to be walking around the room. I'm going to put this slide up. We're going to get them, like my first couple slides, get them thinking about like organization and preparation, and then now I'm going to turn it on them, and I'm going to put this up on the slide. I'm going to leave it there for a little bit. We're going to walk around. I'm going to try to get people thinking about their slides and what they do, like something that they do. And I'll be doing further prompts from there, but I'm going to leave that up there for a few minutes. Then my next slide, what if I could probably end up putting a couple different pictures of things, like maybe like a 2x2 of images. Make a little grid here, maybe. Let's duplicate that, and let's. How do I arrange? And then let's take this all the way over. So then I can maybe drop I don't like how it overlaps there in the middle, but then I can drop the 4 pictures in there, maybe. It could be further prompts. I could put in there a picture of like somebody giving a presentation. I could do a report, or like somebody recording a video, somebody typing in a computer. Like I could do a couple different just ideas. So I leave that up there for a few minutes, and then I can put a couple more pictures in there, kind of hidden behind this overlap, so it almost feels like a picture frame type thing, and could kind of help create some distinction between those different items. So because this is a workshop, we'll be jumping, and I'll be sharing my screen, and I'll be jumping back and forth between the presentation and the and me working on my screen. So this will be a reminder for like a place in the presentation to prompt me to go over to that. So I'll just replace this. I need to go look up and find a picture of a MindNode icon and drop that in. And then the next thing after that is looking at our presentation mind map is the tasks section. So this is where we're jumping into drafts and working on tasks. So new blank slide. And this will be drafts icon probably. But let's pop over for a second back into Unsplash. So Productivity, maybe? I didn't spell that word right. I definitely didn't spell that word right. That might work. Actually doing the things, okay. I kind of like the contrast of that one, like that kind of does tell the whole story. So maybe that's what we'll go with. All right. I hope you fit. Do you fit? There we go. So that's where we'll talk about. So this is like the landmark where we'll now start talking about tasks. Like we got to think about how that all works. Then we jump into drafts. With Vivaldi, we're in here. Now we're looking at not getting things done, but folders. I already looked up folders and it didn't quite work. Computer folders I don't think worked either. Yeah, floppy disks are not going to represent what I'm looking for here. All right, so in our mind map for this presentation, we have the draft section, which we're, again, just had that slide up there, and then we're going to jump into drafts. And this is mostly a demo. Like this, it's a workshop. The whole thing is mostly a demo. This is going to be me on my computer doing the presentation, or not doing the presentation, but doing the work, demoing the work. And so then we have to come back and context shift into thinking about the folders and thinking about, which I think is going to be harder for people because I don't think that's something that they do as much as like planning ahead what folders you need. So I have a feeling that this audience might resonate with cameras and photography stuff. So don't know for sure. But this style of image, this flat lay, I've seen some, like, yeah, like something like this. Right, because this represents somebody who's, the example here would be, here's somebody who is thought about what they're going to go do, and they have everything they need to go do that. So that's like a physical analogy. Like I need a tripod, the camera, I got 2 lenses, I got a hard drive, I got a gimbal. Like something like this. So maybe it might be that picture. Let's see if there's a better one, but that one's a little hard. Those are both kind of dark and hard to see. I wish there was a brighter one. Okay. So I like that. So this, I like the image better, and I like it still does it. The slide doesn't need to represent physical actual digital files. It needs to evoke a sense of organized. And I have a different version of that same backpack. So I feel like this fits in. All right. So back to Keynote. So after my drafts icon, so this one we're talking about doing stuff. Then we jump into here to do the task paper template. So then on this slide, this is where I'm going to, now we're going to think about, where is it? Pulling it in here. There it is. So now I'm trying to evoke that sense of planning and organization. Okay, got a little bit of room I could pull it in. There we go. Okay. So here on this slide, I'll be talking about like, this is what you need to organize, or just like you would plan on pulling all this stuff together so that you could go take photos and edit pictures. There's a digital version of this too, and that's what we're going to work together on. I think that's the plan. That's what this slide will do, and then this will be MindNode. Well, actually, let me just duplicate that slide and bring that down here. And let's pop back over to MindNode. All right, so that'll be our folder section, and then again, I'll be sharing my screen for the vast majority of that time. And then this macro assembly part. So this is where we're going to be pulling together. They'll be downloading the Keyboard Maestro macro that I'm sharing with them. Then we're going to take the things that they've created and put them into Keyboard Maestro, and connecting back to the digital mise en place theme, right? This food preparation theme. Perhaps this one can be like plating. Maybe that'll help keep the analogy going. So like a chef plating a dish. Can I just say plating? Will that work? Yeah. And that looks delicious, but I'm not sure if that's the picture I want, but I like that picture. This shows somebody doing the plating, doing the work, so I like that very first one. Yeah, I'll go with it. All right, so let me pull that out of my downloads. There we go. Drag it up a little bit, see the plates better. This will be Keyboard Maestro macro for demo. and that'll be that and then we'll be on screen doing all of that, and then we're at the outro. So my final slide will probably be so what I said, what I have is a contact form, a links. I thought about maybe trying to have something ready to like propose in case people are interested in like coaching on this stuff. I don't think I'm going to do that. But I'll have links. There's a feedback form that I want to get feedback on, and I'll share my contact form. I'll tell them to do that stuff, but the last slide I want to see is will be those three things. So I'm going to go back to the just QR code generator that I had before. So again, I found this, somebody posted this on Mastodon and I saved it. And the nice thing is that it's, there's no ads, it's all entirely in your browser, never sent anywhere. Gabe, that's the person who made it. It was whimsy. Gabe made it. Appreciate you, Gabe. So let me go get these links. So this first one, where is it? Copy the link address. There we go. Get a big one. And the background color will be there you go. And the foreground color will be white. All right. So we'll download that QR code. This was links. Okay.